My name is Elizabeth. I'm 19 years old, and on what should have been the happiest day of my life, my birthday, my parents rewrote their will and cut me out completely. Not partially. Not conditionally. Completely. Like I never existed. Like 19 years of being their daughter meant absolutely nothing. So I walked into my lawyer's office the next morning, my hands shaking but my voice steady, and I told him one thing: sell the house in 6 hours. Every last piece of it. I'm done. My story is intense, it's painful, and it's real. So make sure you stay until the end, because what happened after that moment changed everything. But before I tell you how my entire world exploded in the span of one afternoon, please hit that like button, subscribe to Revenge Queens, and comment below telling me where you're watching from. Your support means everything to me right now. Now let me take you back to the beginning, because this betrayal didn't start on my 19th birthday. It started months before that, so quietly that I almost didn't notice it happening. I grew up in what I thought was a loving home. My childhood was warm. My parents were present, or so I believed. We had family dinners, holiday traditions, birthday celebrations that felt special. I was their firstborn, their daughter, and for years I carried that identity like it was something precious. Something that mattered. But somewhere around my 18th birthday, things began to shift. It was subtle at first. Little things that I brushed off because I didn't want to believe what they might mean. My dad started having meetings in his office with the door locked. My mom would stop talking when I entered a room, her smile suddenly too tight, too forced. Phone calls that ended abruptly when I walked by. Conversations that felt like they were happening in code. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was imagining it, that parents are allowed to have private discussions. But then I noticed the way they looked at me, not with love, but with something else. Something that felt like calculation. Like they were measuring me against some invisible standard I didn't know existed. My siblings started getting preferential treatment. Nothing dramatic, just more. More attention. More praise. More inclusion in those secret family meetings I was never invited to. When I asked about it, my mother would wave her hand dismissively and say, "It's just boring financial stuff, honey. Nothing you need to worry about." But I did worry, because my birthday celebrations started getting smaller, colder. My 18th birthday had been this elaborate party with family and friends, balloons and a custom cake, my parents making speeches about how proud they were of me. My 19th birthday? They suggested keeping it small. Just immediate family. A quiet dinner. I should have known something was catastrophically wrong. I should have trusted my instincts. But I was still clinging to the hope that I was wrong. That my parents loved me. That family meant something. The night of my 19th birthday arrived with a strange, heavy atmosphere that filled our dining room like smoke. My mother had cooked my favorite meal, but she barely looked at me while serving it. My father kept checking his watch. My siblings were unusually quiet, exchanging glances I couldn't read. Halfway through dinner, my father cleared his throat in that way he does when he's about to make an announcement. My stomach dropped before he even spoke. "Elizabeth," he said, his voice careful and measured, "your mother and I have been doing some planning. Changes we believe are necessary for the good of this family." The good of this family. Those words. I'll never forget those words. My mother reached under her chair and pulled out a folder. A legal folder with our family lawyer's letterhead on it. She slid it across the table toward me like it was a dinner menu, not a document that would destroy everything I thought I knew about my place in this family. "We've updated our will," my father continued. "We've made some adjustments to how our estate will be distributed." My hands were trembling as I opened the folder. The words blurred at first, then sharpened into brutal clarity. My name appeared exactly once in the entire document, in a clause specifically stating that I was to receive nothing. Zero. Not a single asset, not a penny, not even a family heirloom. Everything was going to my siblings. The house. The investments. The savings. The business. Everything my parents had built. Everything I thought would one day be shared among all of us. It was all going to them. Why? The word came out as barely a whisper. My mother's face remained eerily composed. "Because it's what's best, Elizabeth. You're young. You're impulsive. We don't trust that you'd handle this responsibility properly. We're thinking long-term, my father added, as if that justified it. As if cutting your daughter out of your life completely was just smart financial planning. I looked at my siblings. They wouldn't meet my eyes. They already knew. Everyone knew, except me. This birthday dinner wasn't a celebration. It was an execution. This is necessary, my mother said again, that word dripping with cold finality. You'll understand someday. But I understood right then. I understood that to them, I wasn't a daughter. I was a problem to be managed, a risk to be eliminated, a line item to be removed from their perfect family equation. Now, if you've ever been betrayed by the people who are supposed to protect you, who are supposed to love you unconditionally, hit that subscribe button right now. Or tell me in the comments why you won't, because honestly, engagement helps push this story out to other people who need to hear that they're not alone in this kind of pain. That night, I went to my room, and I went numb. Completely numb. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat on my bed staring at the wall, that legal document in my hands, trying to process what had just happened. But somewhere in that numbness, a memory surfaced. A conversation I'd had with my grandmother years before she passed away. She'd taken my hand one afternoon and told me something I hadn't fully understood at the time. Elizabeth, she'd said, I made sure you were protected. When you turn 18, you have legal authority over certain properties through a trust one established. Your parents don't control everything. Remember that. At the time, I'd thought she was just being a protective grandmother, maybe a little paranoid about family dynamics. Now I understood she'd seen something in my parents that I'd been too young, too trusting to see. I pulled out my grandmother's old documents that I'd kept in a memory box. There it was, a clause granting me partial legal authority over the family property, specifically the house we were living in. My grandmother had structured it so that after I turned 18, any major decisions about the property required my consent. My parents had either forgotten about this detail or assumed I didn't know about it. They'd miscalculated. Badly. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I made a decision. If they wanted to cut me out, if they wanted to treat me like I was nothing, then I would make sure there was nothing left to inherit. I would burn it all down, legally, completely, and before they could stop me. The next morning, I called our family lawyer. Not the one who'd helped them rewrite the will, a different one, an independent one who'd handled my grandmother's trust. I need you to sell the house, I told him. Today. Within 6 hours, if possible. He was quiet for a long moment. Elizabeth, that's extremely aggressive timeline. Are you sure? I have never been more sure of anything in my entire life. The countdown began. My lawyer immediately started contacting every buyer he knew who might be interested in a quick purchase. He called real estate investors who specialized in fast closings. He pulled every favor he had. The price would be lower than market value, but I didn't care. This wasn't about money. This was about power, about agency, about making sure my parents understood that I wasn't going to be their victim. While he made calls, I started packing. Not everything. I didn't want everything. Just the things that mattered. Photos of my grandmother. Books she'd given me. A few pieces of jewelry that were specifically mine. Gifts from relatives who'd actually loved me. I was moving mechanically through my room when I heard the commotion downstairs. Shouting. My mother's voice. High and panicked. My father's, thunderous with rage. They'd received the legal notice. The notice that informed them that due to my grandmother's trust provisions, I had initiated the sale of the property and that they had until end of business day to vacate or accept the sale as joint decision makers, which, of course, they would never agree to. But the legal process was already in motion. My mother's footsteps pounded up the stairs. She burst into my room, her face blotchy with tears, her carefully maintained composure completely shattered. What have you done? She screamed. Elizabeth, what have you done? What was necessary? I said, echoing her own words back to her. What's best for me? My father appeared behind her, his face purple with fury. You can't do this. This is our house. We'll fight this. Try, I said, my voice eerily calm. But Grandma's trust is ironclad. I checked. The lawyer who wrote it made sure you couldn't touch it, couldn't challenge it, couldn't undo it. She knew. She knew exactly what kind of people you were. My siblings crowded in the doorway, finally looking scared. Finally realizing that their inheritance had just evaporated. "You're being selfish," my sister shouted. "You're destroying this family." I actually laughed. It came out harsh and broken. "I'm destroying it? I'm destroying it? You all cut me out like I was garbage and didn't even have the decency to tell me privately. You did it on my birthday. At dinner. Like it was nothing. If you're still watching this, if you're still here with me in this moment, why aren't you subscribed yet? Be honest in the comments. Tell me what's stopping you. Because I read every single comment, and your words, your support, it matters more than you know." The confrontation lasted hours. My parents cycled through every manipulation tactic they knew. My mother cried and begged, saying I was breaking her heart, that I'd regret this forever, that family was everything. My father threatened legal action, then switched to guilt, reminding me of everything they'd ever done for me, every sacrifice they'd made. My siblings blamed me for being vindictive, for being cruel, for not understanding that mom and dad were just trying to do the right thing. But I'd done my homework. I'd prepared for this. I pulled out printed emails and documents I'd found in my father's office, evidence that they'd been planning this for over 6 months, that they discussed specifically how to handle Elizabeth when she found out, that they'd calculated how to minimize my reaction. "You planned this," I said, spreading the papers on my bed. "You carefully, methodically planned to erase me from this family. So don't you dare stand here and tell me I'm the one destroying anything. You destroyed it the moment you decided I didn't matter." My mother's face went white as she recognized her own handwriting. My father's jaw clenched so hard I could hear his teeth grinding. "You went through my private office?" he said, his voice dangerous. "You wrote me out of your will on my birthday." I shot back. "I'd say we're even." The truth was settling over them now, the realization that they couldn't stop this, that they'd underestimated me so completely, dismissed me so thoroughly, that they hadn't bothered to check if I had any power of my own. And now it was too late. My phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer. "Buyer confirmed. Closing in 2 hours. Prepare for final signatures." 2 hours. That's all the time my family had left in this house. "It's done," I told them. "The sale is happening. You need to start packing." My mother collapsed onto my bed, sobbing. My father just stood there, his face frozen in shock and rage. My siblings started arguing with each other, pointing fingers, trying to figure out whose fault this was. No one took responsibility. No one apologized. They just turned on each other because that's what people like them do when their plans fall apart. I left them there and went downstairs to meet my lawyer at the door. He had the papers. We sat at the dining room table, the same table where they'd given me that will 24 hours earlier, and I signed everything. My hand was steady. My conscience was clear. The money from the sale was transferred into an account my grandmother had established for me. A substantial amount, even with the reduced price. Enough to start over. Enough to build something new. When it was done, when the deed was transferred and the house officially belonged to someone else, I walked through each room one final time. Not to say goodbye to the house. I didn't care about the house. I walked through to say goodbye to the version of myself who'd believed these people loved me. My parents were in the living room, surrounded by half-packed boxes, still looking like they couldn't believe this was real. My mother tried one more time. "Elizabeth, please. We can fix this. We can work this out. You're our daughter." "No," I said, and my voice didn't shake. "I'm not. You made that very clear. You showed me exactly where I stand. And now I'm showing you that I don't need you. I don't need your approval or your inheritance or your conditional love. I don't need any of it." I walked out the front door, and I didn't look back. If you support people finally standing up for themselves, if you believe that sometimes you have to walk away from toxic family to save yourself, hit that subscribe button right now. Or tell me why you won't, because every comment, every bit of engagement helps push this story to someone else who needs to hear it. The weeks that followed were strange. I moved into a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Completely mine. I enrolled in college courses I'd always wanted to take, but my parents had dismissed as impractical. I started a small business with part of the money, something I was passionate about, something that was just for me. My parents tried calling. I didn't answer. They tried showing up at my apartment. I didn't open the door. They sent my siblings to guilt-trip me. I told them they made their choice when they sat silent at that birthday dinner. My mother sent emails full of manipulation disguised as concern. We're worried about you. You're not ready to be on your own. Come home, and we'll forget this ever happened. Forget. As if I could forget. As if I would want to. My father tried the authoritarian approach. You're being childish. This rebellion is embarrassing our family. You need to act like an adult. But I was acting like an adult. Maybe for the first time in my life. I was setting boundaries. I was protecting myself. I was choosing my own mental health over their comfort. Months passed. I heard through extended family that my parents had moved into a smaller place, that they were going through a difficult time, that they felt betrayed by their ungrateful daughter. The irony wasn't lost on me. Then, about 6 months after my birthday, I got a letter. Not an email. A handwritten letter from my mother. It was long, full of apologies that felt more strategic than sincere. She talked about how they'd made mistakes, how they wanted to reconnect, how family was important. But buried in all those words was the real message. They needed money. My father's business wasn't doing well. They were struggling. And they actually thought that I would help them after everything they'd done. I read that letter 3 times. Not because I was considering helping them, but because I needed to see it clearly. I needed to understand that even their apology was transactional. Even their attempt at reconciliation was about what I could do for them. I never responded to that letter. I never responded to any of the messages that followed it. Because here's what I learned from all of this. Blood makes you related. DNA makes you family in the biological sense. But loyalty, respect, genuine love, those things make you family in the way that actually matters. My parents taught me that lesson, just not in the way they intended. I'm 20 now. It's been over a year since that birthday dinner, since that 6-hour countdown, since I walked out of that house for the last time. And I'm okay. More than okay, actually. I'm building a life that's mine, surrounded by people who've earned the title of family through their actions, not their genetics. Do I still feel the pain? Yes. There are nights when I remember what I thought my childhood was, and I grieve for the family I thought I had. But I don't grieve for the reality. The reality was poison disguised as love, and I'm better off without it. My story isn't a revenge fantasy. I didn't destroy my parents' lives out of spite. I protected myself. I used the tools my grandmother had given me to ensure that I wouldn't be controlled, wouldn't be manipulated, wouldn't be erased. And if you're watching this and you're in a similar situation, if you're dealing with toxic family, if you're being manipulated or controlled or made to feel like you don't matter, please know this. You have more power than they want you to believe. You have options. You have worth that exists completely independent of their approval. Walking away is hard. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done. But staying in that toxicity, accepting that treatment, letting them convince me I deserved it, that would have been harder. That would have destroyed me slowly from the inside. So I chose myself. And I would make that choice again every single time. Thank you for staying with me through this entire story. Thank you for listening. If this resonated with you, please share it. Please subscribe to Revenge Queens. Please comment and let me know you're out there because your stories matter too. My name is Elizabeth. I'm 20 years old. And on my 19th birthday, my parents tried to erase me from their lives. Instead, I erased them from mine and built something better. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be a victim. Sometimes it's building a life so good, so peaceful, so authentically yours that their absence becomes a blessing instead of a curse. That's my story. That's my truth. And I'm finally, truly free.